My thesis is that YouTube can provide a framework for organizations and businesses to create a platform for online communities to flourish through interactivity and loyalty. To do this, in the literature review in part one of this video research, we're going to be looking at three main components. The first of which, communities, and how we define that in the scope of this project. The second of which is what organizations and businesses want to see from their online interactive social media counterparts. And the third part is really what exists in YouTube and what frameworks is YouTube providing for us. And then the second part of this research will go into the actual research and results. So the first thing we're looking at is when I see the word community, what's that really mean? Now, Oxford Dictionary defines communities as a feeling of fellowship with others as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals. Now, when I refer to a community, we are referring to them in an online component, as that's what this research is looking for. That does not change this definition. It merely means that the people within this community exist in an online space. So we have this sense of community, this sense of a joint goal, the joint feelings, like-minded people. And so we already have this common denominator amongst all these people. But what happens is YouTube has provided not only this sense of people, but they've given them a crowd mentality. And the crowd is defined by Professor Raphael of San Diego University. And this was quoted in Smart Mobs, which was Howard Rheingold's book in 2002. And his quote on the crowds, it says, in a sense, the crowd is a sort of medium, if that by the word one means the means for gathering and transforming elements, objects, people, and things. As a medium, the crowd is also the site for the generation of expectations and the circulation of messages. It is in this sense that we might also think of the crowd not merely as an effect of technological devices, but as a kind of technology in itself. It goes on to say, at such moments, the crowd takes on a type of telecommunicative power, serving up channels for sending messages at a distance and bringing distances up close. Enmeshed in a crowd, one feels the potential for reaching out across social space and temporal divides. So when I say online communities, really it's this sense of belonging and shared goals and feelings and beliefs with this hugely empowered mentality to accomplish just about anything across all space, time, demographic, accessibility. It really doesn't matter. And so we have this hugely powerful combination that YouTube has provided for us. And that's the type of community I'm referring to. So with that in mind, we're going to put that on the back burner now and discuss what organizations and businesses are actually looking for. So it's not like organizations and businesses are completely naive or don't know what exists. There are successful models out there. That's just not what this research is actually looking at. And so I've pulled from two major sources here. The first of which is Chris Klein and Ryan Evans, who are representatives of Corey McPherson and Nash, which is a national branding and design firm in social media specifically. They've done this really well, in fact, and they were speaking at MIT about some of the things that they look for, or some of the ways that they can be successful in integrating social media online to enhance their organizations and businesses. With that being said, their main points, or just general overarching themes of their presentation, was absolutely 100% know your audience. Who is your target audience? Because you have to tailor that experience for them. And the second one is have more than one avenue for these people to interact, not only with you, but with each other. And then the third of which is just being genuine and don't being fake. And you'll see these will actually trickle through to when we talk about YouTube as well. But that was the message that they sent out. If that's what they're supposed to be doing, obviously there's some challenges that are occurring. And to really pinpoint those, I referred to a video web series or video blogs that are presented by Sum of Change. Now, I don't have a lot of time to go into detail on what Sum of Change is and does, but the link to their website and organization will be in the sidebar, so feel free to check that out. But the videos I referred to was a panel discussion on what exactly are the obstacles or the hurdles that organizations are facing when trying to create these social media outlets. And the two huge blaring points consistent across all panel members were A, everything is a statistic, and B, what is the value of that statistic? So for example, they're saying that, to measure success or the the meaning and the benefit of these online components, all they have to look at are subscriber numbers, website hit counts, email messages sent, postings, comment. Everything is a number, and there's really no value attached to that. And so that with the follow-up question, what does that mean? What does that comment? What does that subscription, when they hit that subscribe button or that RSS feed, what value are they getting out of that? Because they're not seeing them return and creating that community. They're participating once and then kind of disappearing. So obviously they're not having that buy-in that they need. And so those are the two real distinct obstacles that I'm going to be addressing that YouTube specifically excels at. So now that we have an idea of what organizations want and what obstacles they're facing, let's take a look at YouTube and what it's doing really well. I'm focusing on two very credible users who have been with YouTube for quite some time and have articulated very well what they've done to create a successful online community. The first of which comes from user WhatTheBuck, real name Michael Buckley. Now Michael set the parameters that, one, we can't refer to them as fans because that immediately puts a wall between you and them. It is a community. Come up with a name or a genre or just something, even if you just refer to them as your community or as our community, a sense of inclusion. The second of which is that given that inclusion, there needs to be a set of community guidelines, whether you create it, whether it's they're creating it or whatnot, but that can include, but not limited to, how often you post, what you post on, like your content, what days of the week, how consistently, what their responsibility is to interact, and so on and so forth, which was his fourth point, is letting your community start to help generate that content or what they want to see so that they have this huge sense of buy-in because what they're doing is affecting what you put out there. And so those were his really, really strong points on how he builds a successful community. Now, user Pogobat, real name Dan Brown, got his start on YouTube just by showing people how to solve the Rubik's Cube, it was the first set of those on YouTube, so he amassed hundreds of thousands of subscribers as well. Now, he speaks to new media and communities as not by a one-to-many, but as a many-to-many communication, and that he says he's not there to provide entertainment for his community, he's there to provide a platform for his community to interact with one another. And so these are the two main points. I'm really drawing on the community guidelines, or this sense of community buy-in from WhatTheBuck, and interactivity from Dan Brown. And so to measure, or the two areas that we're focusing on how to measure a successful YouTube community, is one, how well these communities self-regulate themselves. And to do that, we're operationalizing it by looking at negative comments and how well the users of that community censor those or self-regulate those, because there are ways to do so, which we'll cover in the next part of the video. And the interactivity, as mentioned by Dan Brown, how much they're actually interacting with each other as opposed to the user-generated content. So part 2 of this research is really going to focus on how I conducted the research, what the results were, and what discussion questions really came of it.